Joshua 12. Joshua 12. Yeah. I'm not sure what this is. French edition. Let's 12.
Chapter 12. Kings defeated east of the Jordan. These are the kings east of the Jordan River who had been killed by the Israelites and whose land was taken. Their territory extended from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon and included all the land east of the Jordan Valley. King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, was defeated. His kingdom included Aroer on the edge of the Arnon Gorge and extended from the middle of the Arnon Gorge to the Jabbok River, which serves as a border for the Ammonites. This territory included the southern half of the territory of Gilead. Sihon also controlled the Jordan Valley and regions to the east, from as far north as the Sea of Galilee to as far south as the Dead Sea, including the road to Beth Jeshimoth and southward to the slopes of Pisgah. King Og of Bashan, the last of the Rephaites, lived at Ashtaroth and Edrei. He ruled a territory stretching from Mount Hermon to Salika in the north and to all of Bashan in the east, and westward to the borders of the kingdoms of Geshur and Maacah. This territory included the northern half of Gilead as far as the boundary of King Sihon of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites had destroyed the people of King Sihon and King Og. And Moses gave their land as a possession to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Kings defeated west of the Jordan. The following is a list of the kings that Joshua and the Israelite armies defeated on the west side of the Jordan. From Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which leads up to Seir. Joshua gave this land to the tribes of Israel as their possession, including the hill country, the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountain slopes, the Judean wilderness, and the Negev. The people who lived in this region were the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. These are the kings Israel defeated: the king of Jericho, the king of Ai near Bethel, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, the king of Gezer, the king of Deber, the king of Geder, the king of Hormah, the king of Arad, the king of Libnah, the king of Adullam, the king of Makkedah, the king of Bethel, the king of Tappuah, the king of Hepher, the king of Aphek, the king of Lasharon, the king of Madon, the king of Hazor, the king of Shimron-Meron, the king of Akshaph, the king of Taanach, the king of Megiddo, the king of Kedesh, the king of Jokneam in Carmel, the king of Dor in the town of Naphoth Dor, the king of Goyim in Gilgal, the king of Tirzah. In all, 31 kings were defeated.
So that was Joshua 12. Joshua. So I'm reading out of the NLT Bible. So Joshua 12 says, the chapter that I just read, Joshua 12, certainly Joshua 12, and I'll cover some key verses and lessons from this chapter. Joshua chapter 1, verse 1. Now these are kings of the land whom the people of Israel defeated and took possession of their land beyond the Jordan, toward the sunrise, from the valley of the Aaron to Mount Hermon, with all the Abra eastward. In this chapter, Joshua recounts the various kings and territories that the people of Israel conquered and took possession of as they entered the promised land. This verse reminds us of the faithfulness and fulfillment of God's promises. The conquest of the land of Canaan led by the Israelites was a demonstration of God's power and provision. It serves as a reminder that God fulfills his promises and gives victory to his people when they trust and obey him. The lesson here is to trust in God's faithfulness, knowing that he will enable us to overcome the obstacles and challenges in our lives as we follow his guidance. Joshua chapter 1, verse 6, Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the people of Israel defeated them. And Moses, servant of the Lord, gave their land for a possession to the Reubenites and the Gideonites and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Context: this verse highlights the division of conquered lands among the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh as commanded by Moses. This verse raises the importance of unity, cooperation, and fulfillment of God's commitments. The division of land among the tribes was a result of Moses' obedience to God's command. It teaches us the significance of honoring commitments and working together harmoniously as a community. The lesson here is to prioritize unity, cooperation, and the fulfillment of our responsibilities to one another, recognizing that our actions have a broader impact on the community and the fulfillment of God's plans. Joshua chapter 1, verse 24. All kings, 31 kings, and all that Joshua defeated. This context verses summarizes the total number of kings that Joshua defeated during the conquest of the promised land. This verse reminds us of the victories that God grants to his people. The defeat of the 31 kings by Joshua and the Israelites showcases God's power and provision. It serves as a reminder that God fights on behalf of his people and enables them to overcome seemingly unsurmountable challenges. The lesson here is to trust in God's strength and victory, knowing that he is with us in our battles and will grant us success as we rely on him. In summary, Joshua chapter 12 teaches us about the fulfillment of God's promises, the importance of unity and cooperation, and the victories that God grants to his people. It reminds us of God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises and his power to bring about victory in our lives. The lessons from this chapter encourage us to trust in God's faithfulness, prioritize unity and cooperation, and rely on his strength in our battles. So, at Joshua chapter 13. That's the next chapter.
Chapter 13. The land yet to be conquered. When Joshua was an old man, the Lord said to him, "You are growing old, and much land remains to be conquered. This is the territory that remains, all the regions of the Philistines and the Geshurites, and the larger territory of the Canaanites extending from the stream of Shihor on the border of Egypt northward to the boundary of Ekron. It includes the territory of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The land of the Avites in the south also remains to be conquered. In the north, the following area has not yet been conquered: all the land of the Canaanites, including Mira, which belongs to the Sidonians, stretching northward to Aphek on the border of the Amorites. The land of the Gibeonites and all of the Lebanon mountain area to the east, from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon to Lebo Hamath, and all the hill country from Lebanon to Mizraphoth Maim, including all the land of the Sidonians. I myself will drive these people out of the land ahead of the Israelites. So be sure to give this land to Israel as a special possession, just as I have commanded you. Include all this territory as Israel's possession when you divide this land among the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh." The land divided east of the Jordan. Half the tribe of Manasseh and the tribes of Reuben and Gad had already received their grants of land on the east side of the Jordan, for Moses, the servant of the Lord, had previously assigned this land to them. Their territory extended from Aror on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge, to the plain beyond Medeba, as far as Dibon. It also included all the towns of King Sihon of the Amorites, who had reigned in Heshbon and extended as far as the borders of Ammon. It included Gilead, the territory of the kingdoms of Geshur and Maacah, all of Mount Hermon, all of Bashan as far as Salekah, and all the territory of King Og of Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. King Og was the last of the Rephaites, for Moses had attacked them and driven them out. But the Israelites failed to drive out the people of Geshur and Maacah, so they continue to live among the Israelites to this day. An allotment for the tribe of Levi. Moses did not assign any allotment of land to the tribe of Levi. Instead, as the Lord had promised them, their allotment came from the offerings burned on the altar to the Lord, the God of Israel. The land given to the tribe of Reuben. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. Their territory extended from Aror on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge, to the plain beyond Medeba. It included Heshbon and the other towns on the plain: Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mephaath, Kiriathaim, Sibmah, Zereth Shahar, on the hill above the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshimoth. The land of Reuben also included all the towns of the plain and the entire kingdom of Sihon. Sihon was the Amorite king who had reigned in Heshbon and was killed by Moses along with the leaders of Midian, Evi, Rekem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, princes living in the region who were allied with Sihon. The Israelites had also killed Balaam, son of Beor, who used magic to tell the future. The Jordan River marked the western boundary for the tribe of Reuben. The towns and their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. The land given to the tribe of Gad. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Gad. Their territory included Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, and half of the land of Ammon as far as the town of Aror just west of Rabbah. It extended from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to Lo-Debar. In the valley were Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Succoth, Zaphon, and the rest of the kingdom of King Sihon of Heshbon. The western boundary ran along the Jordan River, extended as far north as the tip of the Sea of Galilee, and then turned eastward. The towns and their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Gad. The land given to the half-tribe of Manasseh. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the half-tribe of Manasseh. Their territory extended from Mahanaim, including all of Bashan, all the former kingdom of King Og, and the 60 towns of Jair in Bashan. It also included half of Gilead and King Og's royal cities of Ashtaroth and Edrei. All this was given to the clans of the descendants of Machir, who was Manasseh's son. These are the allotments Moses had made while he was on the plains of Moab across the Jordan River east of Jericho. But Moses gave no allotment of land to the tribe of Levi, for the Lord, the God of Israel, had promised that he himself would be their allotment.
So, that was Joshua 13. So it says, Joshua chapter 13, verse 1. Now Joshua was old and advanced in years, and the Lord said to him, You are old and advanced in years, and there remains yet very much land to possess. The context of that is in chapter Joshua is reminded by the Lord there is still much land left to possess despite his old age. This verse teaches us the importance of perseverance and remaining faithful to God's calling even when we face challenges or obstacles. Joshua's old age does not tempt him from the task at hand, but rather serves as a reminder that there is still work to be done. It encourages us to continue walking in obedience to God's will regardless of our age or circumstances, trusting that He will provide the strength and resources needed to fulfill our purpose. The lesson here is to remain faithful and persistent in fulfilling God's calling on our lives, knowing that there is always more to be accomplished for His kingdom. Joshua chapter 13, verse 6. All the inhabitants of the hill country from Lebanon to Mispera, even all the Sidonians, I myself drive them out from before the people of Israel. Only allot the land to Israel for an inheritance as I have commanded you. In this verse, God assures Joshua that He will drive out the remaining inhabitants of the land and direct Joshua to allocate the land to the people of Israel as an inheritance. This verse highlights God's faithfulness in fulfilling His promises and His role as the ultimate provider and sustainer. It emphasizes the importance of trusting in God's provision and guidance as we navigate through life's challenges and responsibilities, just as God commanded Joshua to allocate the land to the Israelites. We are called to steward the blessings and resources God has given us in a way that honors Him. The lesson here is to trust in God's faithfulness, rely on His provision, and faithfully steward the resources and blessings He has entrusted to us. Joshua 13, verse 33. But to the tribe of Levi, Moses gave no inheritance. The Lord God of Israel is their inheritance, just as He said to them. This verse explains that the tribe of Levi did not receive a territory inheritance like the other tribes, as the Lord Himself was their inheritance. This verse highlights the unique role and calling of the tribe of Levi as priests and servants of God. It demonstrates the importance of prioritizing our relationship with God above our material possessions or earthly inheritances. The tribe of Levi serves as a reminder that our ultimate inheritance and source of provision is found in our relationship with God. It teaches us to seek intimacy with God, to prioritize our spiritual growth, and to find fulfillment in Him alone. The lesson here is to prioritize our relationship with God above worldly possessions, recognizing that He is the ultimate inheritance and source of provision. In summary, Joshua 13 teaches us about the importance of perseverance, trusting in God's provision, and prioritizing our relationship with Him. It reminds us of the ongoing nature of our journey with God and the need to remain faithful to His calling regardless of our age or circumstances. The lessons from this chapter encourage us to trust in God's faithfulness, steward His blessing well, and find our ultimate inheritance and fulfillment in our relationship with Him. The book of Joshua in the Old Testament can teach us several important lessons. God will bring victory and lead His people to promise. Despite obstacles, God helped Joshua and the Israelites conquer the promised land as He had promised. This shows God keeps His word. We must have courage and faith. Joshua demonstrated courage and faith in God by leading the people into battle against powerful enemies, trusting that God will deliver victory as He said. This teaches us to be brave and put our faith in God. Obedience is key. Joshua obeyed God's commands to the Israelites faithfully, leading them to succeed. We should strive to obey God in every part of our lives. Total devotion to God is rewarded. Joshua served God with his whole heart. As a result, God gave Israel rest from their enemies as He promised Joshua. This teaches sincere faithfulness, pleases God. Old habits must die. The book records Joshua renewed the covenant, destroyed the pagan places of worship and idols. We must rid ourselves of anything that compromises devotion to God. Unity under God brings strength. When the Israelites stood together in faith and they prevailed over their foes, a united purpose, and God makes His people mighty. So in summary, the book of Joshua shows us God's faithfulness, the power of courage, courage, faith, and obedience and rewards of wholehearted devotion, lessons that still apply today. The book of Joshua tells a story of how God helped a man named Joshua lead the Israelites into a new land. After the leader Moses died, God had promised this land to the Israelites long ago. Joshua was brave and trusted God completely, even though some big scary tribes lived in the new land. Joshua didn't give up. He knew God would help the Israelites beat their enemies just like he helped them escape Egypt. Joshua taught the Israelites to only worship the God and destroy idols, false gods. Worshipping anything but the real God can get in the way of following him. When the Israelites all worked together and listened to Joshua, amazing things happened. God parted a big river so they could cross, and he made huge walls fall down without any fighting. The book shows God always keeps his promises. He helped the Israelites take the land like he said he would. It's important to have courage and faith in God even when things seem difficult. God will bless us when we completely trust and obey him. The story of Joshua teaches that following God in all our hearts leads to wonderful things. It's a lesson about having faith in God. No. You're right, as Christians, we are not bound by the laws and practices of the Torah Old Testament. However, there are still valuable lessons and examples we draw from the story of Joshua. God is faithful, just as God led Joshua and the Israelites into the promised land. He keeps his promises to be with us, and we can trust in him. Courage and faith in difficult times. Joshua faced huge obstacles, but had courage and faith in God. This shows us to be brave when times are hard and put our trust in God. Obeying God leads to blessing. While we're not under the delivery laws, obediently following God's guidance for our lives today results in his favor and provision, destroying idols, wrong influences. We must rid our hearts of anything that takes precedence over loving and obeying God, like certain attitudes, habits, or priorities. Unity in Christ is powerful. When Christians stand together in faith and purpose, great things can be accomplished through God's strength. Following God wholeheartedly, holy, complete devotion to Jesus should be our aim, as it was for Joshua, so we may experience fullness of life. So in summation, while Christians are not bound to the Torah, Joshua's example of courage, faith, and obedience in God's faithfulness still provide valuable lessons for trusting and following God today. His story encourages us in our walk with Christ. Now we're in Joshua chapter 14.
Chapter 14. The land divided west of the Jordan. The remaining tribes of Israel received land in Canaan as allotted by Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the tribal leaders. These 9.5 tribes received their grants of land by means of sacred lots, in accordance with the Lord's command through Moses. Moses had already given a grant of land to the 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Jordan River, but he had given the Levites no such allotment. The descendants of Joseph had become 2 separate tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and the Levites were given no land at all, only towns to live in with surrounding pasture lands for their livestock and all their possessions. So the land was distributed in strict accordance with the Lord's commands to Moses. Caleb requests his land. A delegation from the tribe of Judah, led by Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, came to Joshua at Gilgal. Caleb said to Joshua, "Remember what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, about you and me when we were at Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land of Canaan. I returned and gave an honest report, but my brothers who went with me frightened the people from entering the promised land. For my part, I wholeheartedly followed the Lord my God. So that day Moses solemnly promised me, the land of Canaan on which you were just walking will be your grant of land and that of your descendants forever, because you wholeheartedly followed the Lord my God. Now, as you can see, the Lord has kept me alive and well, as he promised, for all these 45 years since Moses made this promise, even while Israel wandered in the wilderness. Today, I am 85 years old. I am as strong now as I was when Moses sent me on that journey, and I can still travel and fight as well as I could then. So give me the hill country that the Lord promised me. You will remember that as scouts we found the descendants of Anak living there in great walled towns. But if the Lord is with me, I will drive them out of the land, just as the Lord said." So Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave Hebron to him as his portion of land. Hebron still belongs to the descendants of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, because he wholeheartedly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Previously, Hebron had been called Kiriath Arba. It had been named after Arba, a great hero of the descendants of Anak. And the land had rest from war.
No.
Chapter 15. The land given to the tribe of Judah.
Stop.
The allotment for the clans of the tribe of Judah reached southward to the border of Edom, as far south as the wilderness of Zin. Chapter 14. The land divided west of the Jordan. The remaining tribe.
I don't know how to work
Chapter
this
15.
freaking iPhone. Joshua 14. So that was Joshua chapter 14 that we just read. It says Joshua chapter 14 verses 6 and 9. The people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of, I don't know how to pronounce the words, Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, in Kadesh Barnea, concerning you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again, as it was in my heart. But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. Yet I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses swore on that day, saying, Surely the land on which your foot was trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God." The context of in this chapter, Caleb, one of the 12 spies who explored the promised land 40 years prior, comes to Joshua to claim the land promised to him by Moses. This passage teaches us about the importance of faithfulness and wholehearted devotion to God, despite the fear and doubt that the other spies instilled in the hearts of the Israelites. Caleb remained faithful to God and trusted in his promises. His unwavering commitment to following the Lord allowed him to receive the inheritance promised to him. The lesson here is to remain steadfast in our faith, trusting in God's promises even when others may doubt or discourage us. And encourage us to wholeheartedly follow the Lord and trust in his faithfulness, knowing that he will fulfill his promises to us. Joshua chapter 14, verse 10, verse 12. And now behold, the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years since the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses, while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now behold, I am this day 85 years old. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then, for war and for going and coming. In these verses, Caleb testifies to Joshua that at the age of 85, he is still as strong and capable as he was when Moses sent him to spy out the land. And his passages remind us of the strength and validity that comes from a life lived in faith, in obedience to God. Caleb's physical strength serves as a testimony to God's faithfulness and the rewards of wholehearted devotion. It challenges us to not let age or circumstances limit our faith and service to God. The lesson here is to trust in God's strength and guidance throughout our lives, regardless of our age or physical limitations. It encourages us to embrace a life of faith in obedience to knowing that God can empower and equip us to fulfill His purposes at any stage of life. There's Joshua chapter 14, verse 14. Therefore Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Joushua, and a Kenizzite to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. This verse confirms that Hebron became the inheritance of the Caleb due to his faithfulness and wholehearted devotion to God. This verse highlights the rewards of wholeheartedly following the Lord. Caleb's faithfulness granted him a special inheritance, demonstrating God's faithfulness to His promises. It encouraged us to prioritize our relationship with God, seeking to wholeheartedly follow Him in every aspect of our lives. This lesson here is to recognize that the blessings and rewards of faithfulness come from wholeheartedly following the Lord. It challenges us to examine our own commitment to God and encourages us to seek His will and faithfully obey Him. In summary, Joshua 14 teaches us about the importance of faithfulness, wholeheartedly devotion to God, and the rewards of following Him. It reminds us to trust in God's promises regardless of the doubt or discouragement of others. The lesson from this chapter encourages us to remain steadfast in our faith, to trust in God's strength and guidance throughout our lives, and to wholly follow Him, knowing that He rewards those who diligently seek Him. So, Joshua 15.
Chapter 15. The land given to the tribe of Judah. The allotment for the clans of the tribe of Judah reached southward to the border of Edom as far south as the wilderness of Zin. The southern boundary began at the south bay of the Dead Sea, ran south of Scorpion Pass into the wilderness of Zin, and then went south of Kadesh Barnea to Hezron. Then it went up to Adar, where it turned towards Karka. From there it passed to Asmon until it finally reached the brook of Egypt, which it followed to the Mediterranean Sea. This was their southern boundary. The eastern boundary extended along the Dead Sea to the mouth of the Jordan River. The northern boundary began at the bay where the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea, went up from there to Beth Hogla, then proceeded north of Beth Araba to the stone of Bohan. Bohan was Reuben's son. From that point, it went through the valley of Achor to Deber, turning north toward Gilgal, which is across from the slopes of Adumim on the south side of the valley. From there, the boundary extended to the springs at En-Shemesh and on to En-Rogel. The boundary then passed through the valley of Ben-Hinnom along the southern slopes of the Jebusites, where the city of Jerusalem is located. Then it went west to the top of the mountain above the valley of Hinnom, and on up to the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. From there, the boundary extended from the top of the mountain to the spring at the waters of Nephtoah, and from there to the towns on Mount Ephron. Then it turned toward Baalah, that is, Kiriath Jearim. The boundary circled west of Baalah to Mount Seir, passed along to the town of Kisalon on the northern slope of Mount Jearim, and went down to Beth Shemesh and on to Timnah. The boundary then proceeded to the slope of the hill north of Ekron, where it turned towards Shekiran and Mount Baalah. It passed Jabneel and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. The western boundary was the shoreline of the Mediterranean Sea. These are the boundaries for the clans of the tribe of Judah. The land given to Caleb. The Lord commanded Joshua to assign some of Judah's territory to Caleb, son of Jephunneh. So Caleb was given the town of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, which had been named after Anak's ancestor. Caleb drove out the three groups of Anakites, the descendants of Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. From there he went to fight against the people living in the town of Deber, formerly called Kiriath Sepher. Caleb said, I will give my daughter Achsah in marriage to the one who attacks and captures Kiriath Sepher. Othniel, the son of Caleb's brother Kenaz, was the one who conquered it, so Achsah became Othniel's wife. When Achsah married Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. As she got down off her donkey, Caleb asked her, What's the matter? She said, Give me another gift. You have already given me land in the Negev. Now please give me springs of water, too. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. The towns allotted to Judah. This was the homeland allocated to the clans of the tribe of Judah. The towns of Judah situated along the borders of Edom in the extreme south were Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kena, Dimona, Adada, Kedesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazar-Hadattah, Kiriath Hezron, that is, Hazor, Amam, Shema, Moladah, Hazar-Gadah, Heshmon, Beth-Pelet, Hazar-Shual, Beersheba, Biziothea, Baalah, Eam, Ezem, Iltalad, Kizel, Hormah, Ziklag, Madmannah, Sansana, Lebaoth, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon, 29 towns with their surrounding villages. The following towns, situated in the western foothills, were also given to Judah: Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, Enganim, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soko, Azekah, Shearaim, Adithium, Gedera, and Gederothium, 14 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal-Gad, Dilian, Mizpeh, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kaban, Lamam, Kitlish, Gederoth, Beth-Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah, 16 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iphtha, Ashna, Nizib, Keilah, Akzib, and Mareshah, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. The territory of the tribe of Judah also included Ekron and its surrounding settlements and villages. From Ekron, the boundary extended west and included the towns near Ashdod with their surrounding villages. It also included Ashdod with its surrounding settlements and villages, and Gaza with its settlements and villages, as far as the brook of Egypt and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Judah also received the following towns in the hill country: Shamir, Jater, Soko, Dana, Kiriath-Sana, that is, Deber, Anab, Eshtemoth, Anim, Goshen, Halan, and Gilo, 11 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were the towns of Arab, Duma, Ishan, Janam, Beth Tapua, Aphekah, Humta, Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, and Zior, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Juta, Jezreel, Jokdeam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 towns with their surrounding villages. In addition, there were Halhol, Beth-Zur, Gedor, Merarath, Beth-Anath, and Eltekon, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. There were also Kiriath Baal, that is, Kiriath Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 towns with their surrounding villages. In the wilderness, there were the towns of Beth-Araba, Middin, Sikaka, Nibshan, the city of Salt, and En-Gedi, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. But the tribe of Judah could not drive out the Jebusites who lived in the city of Jerusalem. So the Jebusites live there among the people of Judah to this day.
Okay, hold on for a second. Turn this off Bluetooth, because I don't know why some...
Chapter 16.
Yeah, Joshua chapter 15. So Joshua chapter 15, where I just read, is Joshua chapter 15, verse 13, 14. According to the commandments of the Lord to Joshua, he gave to Caleb, the son of Jehuniah, a portion among the people of Judah. I cannot pronounce the words. That is Hebron. Eber was the father of Anak, and Caleb drove out from there the three sons of Anak, Shashi and Amram, and the descendants of Anak. In the chapter, the boundaries and alignments of the land for the tribe of Judah are described. It also mentions how Caleb, due to his faithfulness and wholehearted devotion to God, is given the city of Hebron as his inheritance. This passage phrases the faithfulness and the courage of Caleb as he drives out the descendants of Anak from the city of Hebron. It highlights the importance of relying on God's strength to overcome obstacles and fulfill his purposes. Caleb's victory showcases the power and faithfulness of God when we trust in him. The lesson here is to have faith in God's promises, to be courage in the face of challenges, and to rely on his strength to overcome any obstacles we may encounter in our lives. Joshua chapter 15, verse 16, and Caleb said, whoever strikes Kiriath Sever and captures it to him, where I'll give Asa, my daughter, as wife. This verse highlights Caleb's promises to give his daughter Asher in marriage to the one who conquers the city of Kiriath Sever. This verse teaches us about the importance of setting goals and offering incentive for achieving them. Caleb's offer of his daughter's hands in marriage served as a motivation for the Israelite warriors to conquer Kiriath Sever. It reminds us of the power of incentives and rewards in driving people to accomplish tasks and reach their full potential. The lesson here is to set meaningful goals for ourselves and others, and to provide appropriate incentives that can inspire and motivate us to pursue and achieve those goals. Joshua 15, verse 19, she said to him, give me a blessing, since you have given me the land of the Negev, giving me also springs of water. And they gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. In the verse, Caleb's daughter asks for a blessing from her father, especially requesting water springs as her portion of inheritance. This verse highlights the importance of seeking God's blessing and provision in every aspect of our lives. Asher's request for water springs demonstrates her understanding of the value of the resources and her desire for subsistence and prosperity. It reminds us to seek God's provision not only in material possessions, but also in our spiritual and emotional needs. The lesson here is to approach God with our requests, seeking his blessings and provision in all areas of our lives, and trusting in his faithfulness to meet our needs. Joshua 15 teaches us about the importance of relying on God's strength, setting goals, and seeking God's blessing and provision. It reminds us to trust in God's faithfulness, to be courage in the face of challenges, and to seek his provision in all aspects of our lives. The lesson from this chapter encourages us to trust in God's strength, set meaningful goals, and seek his blessings and provision as we navigate through life. Hold on. I can't see them all. God, why is she over my page like that? I can't. It's tired seeing her over my page. That Taylor Swift stuff. Joshua chapter 17. No, we're in Joshua chapter 16. Whoops.
Chapter 16. The land given to Ephraim and West Manasseh. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph extended from the Jordan River near Jericho, east of the springs of Jericho, through the wilderness and into the hill country of Bethel. From Bethel, that is Luz, it ran over to Adaroth in the territory of the Archites. Then it descended westward to the territory of the Japhletites as far as lower Beth Horon, then to Gezer and over to the Mediterranean Sea. This was the homeland allocated to the families of Joseph's sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. The land given to Ephraim. The following territory was given to the clans of the tribe of Ephraim. The boundary of their homeland began at Adaroth Adar in the east. From there it ran to upper Beth Horon, then on to the Mediterranean Sea. From Macmethith on the north, the boundary curved eastward past Taanath Shiloh to the east of Genoa. From Genoa it turned southward to Adaroth and Nerah, touched Jericho, and ended at the Jordan River. From Tapua, the boundary extended westward, following the Kana ravine to the Mediterranean Sea. This is the homeland allocated to the clans of the tribe of Ephraim. In addition, some towns with their surrounding villages in the territory allocated to the half-tribe of Manasseh were set aside for the tribe of Ephraim. They did not drive the Canaanites out of Gezer, however, so the people of Gezer live as slaves among the people of Ephraim to this day. Chapter 17. The land given to West Manasseh. The next allotment of land was given to the half-tribe.
Hold on. Joshua 7:16. Joshua chapter 16, verse 1. The allotment of the people of Joseph went from the Jordan by Jericho, east of the waters of Jericho, into the wilderness, going up from Jericho into the hill country to Bethel. In this chapter, the allotment of land for the tribe of Joseph is described specifically the portion given to the descendants of Joshua's son Ephraim. This verse teaches us about the faithfulness of God in fulfilling his promises. The land allotted to the tribe of Joseph, which includes Ephraim, was part of the inheritance promised to the Israelites. It reminds us that God is faithful to fulfill his promises, and he provides for his people according to his divine plan. The lesson here is to trust in God's faithfulness and provision, knowing that he will fulfill his promises to us in his perfect timing. Joshua chapter 16, verse 10 and 11. However, they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer, so the Canaanites have lived in the midst of Ephraim to this day, but have made to be due to forced labor. These verses mention that the Israelites did not fully drive out the Canaanites from the city of Gezer, allowing them to continue living among the tribe of Ephraim. This passage highlights the consequences of incomplete obedience. The failure to completely drive out the Canaanites resulted in their continued presence and influence among the Israelites while they were subjected to forced labor, and their presence posed a potential spiritual and moral threat to the Israelites. The lesson here is to exercise complete obedience to God's commands, as partial obedience can lead to compromise and negative consequences. It reminds us to be diligent in removing any influences or temptations that can hinder our spiritual growth and relationship with God. Joshua chapter 16, verse 17. Then the boundary goes down to the brook Kana, to the south to the brook, these cities 9 in all, with their villages. This verse describes the southern boundary of the land allotted to the tribe of Joseph, specifically the number of cities and their villages within that region. This verse reminds us that of the importance of boundaries and order. The civic delineation of the boundary and the mention of the number of cities highlight the need for structure in organization and the division of land. It teaches us the importance of setting appropriate boundaries in our own lives, whether in our relationships, habits, or time management. Establishing healthy boundaries helps us to maintain balance, order, and well-being. The lesson here is to recognize the importance of boundaries and strive to establish healthy boundaries in our lives, fostering order and promoting spiritual and emotional well-being. In summary, Joshua 16 teaches us about God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises, the consequences of incomplete obedience, and the importance of setting boundaries. It encourages us to trust in God's faithfulness to fully obey his commands and to establish healthy boundaries in our lives. The lessons from this chapter remind us to the significance of God's promise, the importance of obedience, and the need for order, structure in our daily lives.